is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello and welcome to The World Today, live from CGTN in London. I'm Polly Middlehurst. Our top stories this hour. Escaping the blaze, thousands of tourists flee as Turkey's wildfires close in on resort towns. California's Dixie Fire grows into the state's biggest this year, burning an area bigger than New York. And Venice bans large cruise ships from docking in its lagoon. Not everyone is happy. And the new fastest man on the planet, Italy's Lamont Marcel Jacobs, wins gold in the men's 100 metres in Tokyo. So thousands of tourists have been evacuated from hotels along Turkey's southern coast as wildfires continue to bring chaos to the region. 6 people have died, with hundreds injured, and many more have lost property and livelihoods. Louise Greenwood reports.
Their only way out, the sea. Holidaymakers and hotel staff in the popular resort of Bodrum have been cut off after fires shut down roads around the town. Gathering on the beach, private boats and yachts arrived to assist in the evacuation effort. Across southern Turkey, the scenes of devastation have continued as hot air from the Sahara heads north, leaving temperatures in parts of the country edging towards 50 degrees. While forest fires are common in the summer months, data shows that the heat intensity of the current blazes is running at 4 times higher than anything on record. Smoke clouds have now been seen 300 kilometres to the south over Cyprus. 5 regions in Turkey have now been designated disaster zones. Many local residents are facing ruin, with homes, businesses and livestock destroyed.
I lost everything. My car has burnt. I couldn't save anything. The fire broke out very quickly. We had to flee, and this is what we came back to.
With Russia, Ukraine and Iran sending planes to help deal with the fires, questions are being asked about the domestic response to the disaster. But Turkish authorities say emergency crews are working hard to tackle the remaining blazes.
Right now, there is an improvement with all the active fires. As you know, we cannot say they are under control, but we keep monitoring and making statements.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, visiting the area around the epicenter in Antalya, has promised a $6 million package to help with the cleanup and to support those now unable to meet their bills. On the other side of Turkey, weather problems of a different kind, as flash floods continue to bring chaos to villages along the Black Sea coast, raising fears over the possible impact when the hot spell breaks. However, meteorologists warn that the current conditions could last for at least another week. Louise Greenwood, CGTN.
Well, heavy monsoon rains are threatening the western United States, putting drought-stricken areas at risk now of flash flooding. It's a welcome relief for crews battling 87 large fires across 13 separate states, but there are fears lightning could trigger new ones. And climate change is being blamed for the extreme conditions making forests more vulnerable. Our correspondent, Edis Tian-san, went to Lassen Volcanic National Park, which lies in the path of the Dixie Fire in Northern California.
Driving on winding roads north of the Sierra Nevada mountains, we get to Northern California's Lassen Volcanic National Park, currently closed to campers due to the Dixie Fire still raging nearby. We meet Kevin Sweeney, a ranger at the park for the last 15 years, who's observed a consistent change in its landscape.
Well, the snow that was there from this winter melted off very rapidly. So typically that snow would have been held up there through June and even into July. And this year, most of that snow is gone by mid-May, which is about 6 to 8 weeks earlier than it would be. So where we're standing would be the lake level if we had a normal winter where the peak was covered in snow, and instead of being where it is now, it would have come up all the way to here.
California is going through another year of drought, with extremely hot and dry conditions taking a toll on the environment. This is a white bark pine. It can only survive in certain temperatures and humidity. And now with the increasingly hot and dry conditions, it is among the threatened species in our forests in western United States. Many of them are now dying out. If the current trend continues, some of these endangered species could go extinct. And in the meantime, all trees in the forest are losing moisture, and many are dying at a faster rate. These conditions are making forests much more vulnerable to potential fires, forcing rangers like Kevin to be vigilant at all times.
Standing here today, my family is evacuated from the wildfire that's occurring just south of the park right now. We're seeing these wildfires get bigger and more extreme, and so that worries me the most.
Fires are meant to be a natural part of our weather cycle, even beneficial for a forest's life cycle. But mankind has interfered with that natural process.
Climate change has caused drier conditions and hotter temperatures. Hot and dry lead to these massive, very severe wildfires, where we're seeing fires to a scale that we've never experienced before.
People like Kevin dedicate their lives to preserving natural resources like this to be passed down generations. But extreme heat, drought, and fires could jeopardize that. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Lassen Volcanic National Park, California.
Well, let's take a look now at some other news from around the world briefly. The UK says it believes Iran was responsible for a suspected drone attack on an Israeli-managed tanker off the coast of Oman. 2 people, including a British national, were killed on Thursday. The UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says the attack was deliberate, targeted and a clear violation of international law. Tehran has denied any involvement. Taliban fighters have struck Kandahar Airport in southern Afghanistan. 3 rockets were launched overnight in what the group called a counter-attack against airstrikes by the Afghan government. Flights have been suspended due to runway damage there, but no casualties have been reported. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has formally apologised for an immigration crackdown in the 1970s that specifically targeted Pacific Islanders. The infamous Dawn raids sought to arrest and deport those who'd overstayed their work visas. The islanders were disproportionately affected, representing 86% of prosecutions, when most visa overstayers were from the UK, Australia and South Africa. And Myanmar's state of emergency has been extended now for up to 2 years, with the military government vowing to hold elections by August 2023. The army leader who led the takeover in February, Min Aung Hlaing, has named himself as the country's caretaker prime minister. It comes exactly 6 months after the country's main opposition leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, won a general election, a poll dismissed as fraudulent by the country's generals. Now, the United Nations says thousands of Rohingya refugees in southern Bangladesh have had to flee their camps after they were hit by deadly landslides and flooding. Local officials say 21 people have been killed and over 200,000 people are stranded. Ashik Rahman reports now.
Heavy rains and flooding over the past week have had a devastating impact on the lives of 1,000 Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. In the 24 hours to Wednesday alone, more than 30 centimeters of rainfall fell on the camps in Cox's Bazar. To put that in perspective, that's about half the rainfall the area expects to get in the whole month of July. Many people here have been forced to move in with other family members or into makeshift shelters where volunteers and aid workers assist in the rebuilding efforts.
Whenever rain comes, I get frightened, as I have seen landslides claiming lives several times over the year. Last Wednesday, people got trapped and died in the camp. This is not new.
We were not prepared for the last disaster, and we will not be ready for the next one because we are running on fumes. The world needs to help us now because the Bangladesh government and her people have done all they can.
Even though most of the water has receded, danger still lurks. Overflowing sewage and contaminated drinking water is putting the lives of many Rohingyas at risk, especially the children. In many places, floods and landslides have destroyed mosques, school administrative buildings, security outposts. They say they are constantly asking for better materials to build stronger shelter to withstand the monsoon, as well as fire hazard of the summer and bone-shivering cold of Bangladesh winter. But the supply hasn't met the demand. Ashik Rahman, CGTN, Teknaf, Bangladesh.
Well, still to come on The World Today, Italy's government spurred into action. A ban on large cruise ships in Venice Lagoon goes into effect. Welcome back. A reminder of our top stories on CGTN. Escaping the blaze, thousands of tourists flee as Turkey's wildfires close in on resort towns. And California's Dixie Fire grows into the state's biggest this year, burning an area larger than New York. Now, large cruise ships are banned from the waters around Venice, part of the Italian government's efforts to protect the city of canals and prevent it being added to a list of endangered World Heritage Sites. However, the decision has been met with a mixed reaction. Yolo David reports.
The city of canals is also called La Serenissima, most serene. Venice, the lagoon, and more than 100 of its islands were awarded UNESCO status in 1987. Since then, it's been threatened by high tides, pollution and mass tourism. 25 million visitors came 2 years ago, many on cruise liners, which threatened the very foundations of this 1,500-year-old city. Ships larger than 25,000 tons will now be routed towards the industrial port of Marghera at the edge of the lagoon.
Everyone knew we were much smaller than the big cruise companies. It was so obvious that many compared us to David versus Goliath. Us ordinary citizens with our little boats, simple and self-organized, against these giant ships that are not only giant in terms of size, but also in power and money.
Opposition groups and many Venetians have long campaigned against cruise ships and the effects of mass tourism. UNESCO's Heritage Committee urged Italian authorities in 2014 to ban large ships and oil tankers from entering the lagoon. But not everyone is in favour.
It's just crazy. I mean, from a port and from a territory that made his fortune on the port activities, on the maritime traffics, we're going to become just a little bit more than a small marina.
Some businesses in the region doubt whether Venice can thrive without cruise liners. Italy's government has approved a new dock for passenger ships in Marghera, but no one knows when it will be completed. Italy has more UNESCO sites than any other country. Preservation groups have criticised the Heritage Committee for not protecting Venice more and campaigned to place the city and lagoon on a danger list. Even the ban on big ships isn't seen as enough.
We deeply deplore the decision taken by the World Heritage Committee not to place Venice and its lagoon on the UNESCO list of World Heritage in danger. Big ships are still allowed through the delicate lagoon and more in the port of Marghera, and their excessive environmental and climate impacts will continue. Shunting the big ships out of sight will still exacerbate the problems of erosion in the lagoon.
The ignominy of losing UNESCO status or being placed on a danger list has been avoided with this ban on large ships, but the Heritage Committee expects the Italian government to say by the end of next year how it plans to protect Venice's fragile environment in the long term. Yolo Ap David, CGTN.
Well, some more stories for you from around Europe now. And Hungary has become the first European country to offer a third coronavirus vaccine dose. Citizens can now request a jab 4 months after they've had their second shot, or even sooner if doctors advise. The country is among the fastest in the EU to inoculate the public and is the only state to widely deploy Chinese and Russian vaccines before they receive approval from the bloc's regulator. German police have started carrying out spot checks on returning holidaymakers. It follows the government's decision to tighten travel restrictions. All unvaccinated people travelling by air, sea, road or rail must now provide a negative test result if they're 12 years old or over. The government's concerned that travellers may bring back infections as the Delta variant spreads across tourist hotspots. And 394 migrants have been rescued from a wooden boat in the Mediterranean Sea. Rescue boats from Germany and France came to their aid in Tunisian waters, some 68 kilometres off the North African coast. The boat was carrying mostly men from Morocco, Bangladesh, Egypt and Syria. Now we can talk about fires today, and fires have also reached the coast of Greece, the western part of Greece, prompting the evacuation of villages and even beaches there. Athens has warned that it could break out with a dangerous heat wave, not expected to reach its peak until next week. Evangelos Sipsas reports now.
The second day in a row, crews and volunteers are battling wildfires in the Peloponnese region near the villages of Zyria and Labiri, which lie about 210 kilometers from the Greek capital. It comes as a heat wave continues to intensify, with temperatures reaching the mid-40s.
The fire broke out on Saturday in western Greece, forcing the evacuation of 4 villages and a number of people on the beach. It quickly spread westwards towards the coast, crossing the highway connecting Athens to Patras, Greece's third largest city. Fire crews, trucks, planes, and helicopters have been mobilized to bring the fires under control. A freeway in the region remains closed, as is the Rio Andirio Bridge across the Gulf of Corinth, connecting the Peloponnese and mainland Greece. Though people themselves are not in danger, overnight about a dozen homes and around 20 vehicles were destroyed, along with crops and livestock.
My olive trees were burned. Only my larger animals survived. My warehouse and stock burned, as did my chickens, rabbits, everything.
There was a lot of wind, a mistral from the northwest. That's how the damage was done. We have a lot of forest that it hasn't burned before, not in 100 years.
Greek authorities have warned the public on Friday that there was a high risk of wildfires during a dangerous heat wave expected to peak next week. Temperatures are expected to reach 45 degrees Celsius, and the Greek government has placed the country on high alert.
While we still haven't reached the peak of the heat wave, firefighters have tackled more than 58 wildfires in the last 24 hours. The country has bitter memories of the 2018 blaze that tore through the seaside of Mati near Athens, killing 102 people in a matter of hours. With still a month to go until the end of the fire season, authorities are doing everything they can to avoid a repetition of such a disaster. Evangelos Sipsas for CGTN, Athens, Greece.
Now, undocumented migrant workers in Malaysia could be vaccinated without appointments or proper papers. The government wants every adult in the capital, Kuala Lumpur, and its surrounding areas to be given at least one COVID shot by the end of August. Ryan Meltzer reports now from Malaysia.
There are likely more than 2 million undocumented foreigners in Malaysia. Like Bangladeshi construction worker Shaukat, many became undocumented after being duped by unscrupulous agents or employers. They live in constant fear of being detained, and now of COVID-19.
I'm terrified of the virus. If I get sick, there will be no one to take care of me. And if I cannot work, what will happen to my family back home?
As early as last year, government ministers said there'd be no crackdown against undocumented migrants during the pandemic to avoid driving them underground.
Despite that, immigration authorities have continued their raids. detaining and deporting thousands of people from places such as Bangladesh, Indonesia and Myanmar. The minister in charge of the vaccination program maintains the priority must be to quickly vaccinate everyone, regardless of status, starting here at the local epicenter of the pandemic.
If there are those that we may have missed out, for instance, those who are without any documents or perhaps undocumented migrants, and even others, we have made the decision that on the 1st of August, Kuala Lumpur and Selangor will be walk-in for people to receive their vaccine so that we can mop up anybody that has not received their first dose in Kuala Lumpur and in Selangor.
Legally employed foreigners have been getting the jab through the main national vaccination program, as well as schemes specifically targeting industry. But not so yet for workers who don't have proper papers.
What guarantees do I have that police will not arrest me on the road when I go for the vaccine? After August the 1st, I will watch to see what happens and then decide whether to get it.
Many others will be doing the same, weighing their fears of the virus against their fears of being detained. Ryan Meltzer, CGTN, Kuala Lumpur.
Well, now to events in Tokyo, and the Ugandan weightlifter who had disappeared from an Olympic training camp has been released from police custody after spending 5 days locked up in Kampala. Julius Seketeleko failed to qualify for the Games after his arrival in Japan. Some reports suggest he left a note in his hotel room saying that he wanted to stay and work in the country. Well, he returned to Uganda last week and was held for questioning over his disappearance. CGTN's Leon Senyage reports.
Julius Seketeleko walks barefoot into the Criminal Investigation Directorate offices minutes before his release. The weightlifter, who went missing in Japan, had spent 5 nights in police custody since his return home.
I am glad to those that sent me all the help. I just want to rest now. It's been tough for me these past few days.
Authorities say they were investigating matters related to fraud in his travel to Japan without having officially qualified for the Olympic Games. No charges have been made against the 20-year-old.
Part of our investigations are going to be extended to officials who are still in Japan. So the moment they are here, we shall able to interact with them, and we shall understand the parameters, the qualifications, the rating, and there we shall get a picture on whether there is somebody supposed to be charged or not.
Before his disappearance, Seketeleko had been staying with Team Uganda at a hotel near a training camp in Western Japan since June. He handed himself to Japanese authorities and later flown back to Uganda. He was arrested upon arrival. His family and friends are very happy to finally have him back home.
The situation he was in, it wasn't easy, but I'm happy for that. I'm really happy. I'm so grateful that he's home now.
Local athletes and sports enthusiasts took to social media, offering support to the weightlifter. Seketeleko says he will get back to training immediately. He wants to go to next year's Commonwealth Games. Leon Senyage, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Well, Italy's Lamont Marcel Jacobs has been crowned the world's fastest man after winning the 100 metres race in Tokyo in a surprising upset. The absence of 3 times Olympic champion Usain Bolt meant the field was wide open for him, and long shot Jacobs impressed with a 9.80 finish. It was a great night for the Italians in track and field. Only minutes earlier, Gianmarco Tamberi secured a shared gold in the men's high jump with Qatar's world champion. Both finished level in the event with jumps of 2.37 metres after a gruelling 2 hours of competition. They faced a potential jump-off to decide the overall winner, but an official agreed they could split the gold. But it's not all good news. Some athletes could be sent home for breaking COVID-19 protocols. John Matthews is in Tokyo.
The CEO of Tokyo 2020 says they're still investigating the incident, and they haven't released the names of the athletes or others apparently drinking in the village park. And this comes just after 2 judoka from Georgia were stripped of their accreditation and sent home after they were found taking a sightseeing trip outside the bubble. Now, for Sunday's competition, China took home 3 golds, all in women's sports, the shot put, singles badminton, and in 3-meter springboard diving, with China grabbing the silver there as well. Some of the highlights today, though, came on the tennis courts. The mixed doubles final featured 2 Russian Olympic Committee teams, and despite the guaranteed Russian gold, the match was intense and hard fought, going into a super tiebreaker for the final set. Also, German tennis player Alexander Zverev, all after crushing Golden Slam dreams for Novak Djokovic on Friday, claimed the country's first gold medal in men's singles tennis. Now, meanwhile, Tokyo 2020 has confirmed 18 more COVID-19 cases associated with the Games, now at 264 since July 1st. Tokyo has reported more than 3,000 new daily cases for Sunday, with Japan reporting more than 10,000. John Matthews, CGTN, Tokyo.
Well, a few other surprise results at the Olympics. In the men's 8 rowing, New Zealand stunned the field to secure its first gold medal in the event since the 1972 Games in Munich. Dan Williams caught up with one of the athletes, MacDonald, in Tokyo.
How do you reflect on the success? Gold medal here at Tokyo 2020.
Yeah, it's taken a while to sink in. I'm absolutely over the moon with how we performed and the result came our way, and yeah, like I'm just really enjoying being here for the last day that we're here and trying to soak up the Olympic experience.
3 gold medals for the rowing team here in Tokyo. What would you say is the secret behind that success?
I think like the last 2 years we've been really competitive against each other, like crew to crew. It's always like that at Rowing NZ. That's sort of how they've set it up, and this year for the men's 8, we were really just trying to base ourselves off the women's 8. Like they won in 2019, so they were our standard. So all the other crews were sort of basing themselves off them and just trying to get as close as we could on performances, like prognostically. So I feel like that helped us a long way. Like that was a huge motivator.
This is an Olympics that has had a couple of shocks, I guess, with the pandemic going on. You know, there hasn't been that international competition, but what do you feel this performance from the men's 8, first win for New Zealand since '72, what do you feel that's going to do for rowing as a sport in New Zealand?
Back home, yeah. I feel like it's just going to give some kids, you know, something to look up to and a bit of inspiration. Like I looked up to Hamish and Eric when they were winning, and it is really unreal for me to potentially be like kids looking up to me now. I feel like if anyone can do it, you know, if I can do it, anyone can do it. You know, like they've just got to keep going at it, and I feel like kids will see this and just be inspired to give it a good crack.
That's the roundup from Tokyo. A reminder of our main stories now on CGTN. Tourists are evacuated from Turkish beaches as wildfires close in now on resort towns. And the new fastest man on the planet is Italy's Lamont Marcel Jacobs. He's won prize gold in the men's 100 metres in Tokyo. And that's just about it from the world today. Thanks very much for watching. We're available on smart TV apps such as Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire and Android TV. You can also find us on YouTube and Dailymotion, as well as, of course, at CGTN.com and on the CGTN app. Coming up next on CGTN, it's Razor from all the team here in London. Goodbye and thanks for watching.